All the glitters is gold, and she's buying the stairway.
You big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place, singing, "We will."
Welcome back to the Rock Vault. Today, we're cranking the amps to journey through the golden decade of rock. The 1970s gave us riffs, anthems, and ballads that still echo across generations. This is our top 10 best rock songs of the 1970s, presented in no particular order, each one a timeless piece of music history.
All the glitters is gold, and she's buying the stairway.
When you think of the 1970s, few songs loom as large as Stairway to Heaven. From its delicate acoustic intro to its thunderous climax, the track unfolds like a journey, each section more powerful than the last. Jimmy Page's guitar work is nothing short of spellbinding, weaving from soft, folk-like strumming into one of the most iconic solos in rock history. Robert Plant's vocals guide the listener through cryptic, almost mystical lyrics, cementing the song as both a spiritual experience and a rock powerhouse. The song was never released as a single, yet it became one of the most played tracks on FM radio and a staple of every vinyl collection. Its influence was immeasurable. Guitarists studied it, singers aspired to match Plant's soaring delivery, and fans felt they were hearing something beyond just music. For Zeppelin, it was the centerpiece of their legendary Led Zeppelin 4. And for listeners, it was the anthem of an era. For those who lived it, Stairway to Heaven was more than a song. It was a soundtrack to unforgettable nights. You can almost picture the glow of lava lamps in darkened rooms, the smoke of incense in the air, and groups of friends sitting cross-legged on the floor, listening with reverence as the track built toward its earth-shaking finale. And for teenagers cruising in '71, nothing felt more alive than cranking the volume during Page's searing solo, letting it roar into the night. Even today, when the opening notes echo through a speaker, time seems to pause. It's not just a song. It's a ritual, a collective memory that ties generations together. Stairway to Heaven remains proof that rock could be both intimate and epic, personal and universal. And in the pantheon of 1970s rock, it's a song that continues to soar higher than ever.
Carry on my wayward son, there'll be peace when you...
The mid-70s were overflowing with arena anthems, but few songs captured the spirit of perseverance and searching like Kansas' Carry On Wayward Son, bursting open with a galloping riff, intricate harmonies, and a surge of progressive rock energy. It was instantly recognizable from the first note. Kerry Livgren's composition pushed the band beyond their folk-tinged roots into something bolder, blending spiritual yearning with technical fireworks. Steve Walsh's soaring vocals carried the lyrics like a sermon shouted from the stage, while the guitar and organ duels made it a prog rock masterpiece that somehow still landed squarely on mainstream radio. For Kansas, this was the breakthrough, their first major hit, peaking on the Billboard Hot 100 and launching them into the upper tier of 70s rock giants. It wasn't just music for the charts, though. For the listeners of 1976, the song felt like an anthem for restless souls. Whether you were a college kid staring down an uncertain future, a long-haired dreamer behind the wheel of a beat-up Camaro, or someone quietly chasing meaning, Carry On Wayward Son was the soundtrack to those moments of doubt and determination. The beauty of the track lies in its contrasts, the heavy riffing tempered by heavenly vocal harmonies, the complexity balanced with hooks you couldn't shake. It was intellectual and visceral all at once. And for anyone who grew up with FM radio blasting, you can still remember that feeling of turning the dial, hearing those opening chords, and knowing the next 5 minutes would take you somewhere transcendent. Even now, decades later, Carry On Wayward Son carries the same punch. It's become more than a rock staple. It's a cultural touchstone, resurfacing in films, television, and live shows that prove its staying power. At its heart, it's still about resilience, about finding light in the chaos. And in the story of 70s rock, Kansas carved their name in stone with this enduring classic.
You make me weak and wanna die.
The final year of the decade delivered one of rock's most enduring anthems. Journey's Don't Stop Believin' was more than just a radio hit. It was a cultural phenomenon waiting to happen. Neil Sean's glistening guitar chords, Jonathan Cain's unforgettable piano line, and Steve Perry's soaring vocals blended into something timeless, a song that carried both intimacy and grandeur in equal measure. Released near the close of the 70s, it embodied the optimism and resilience of a generation that had lived through protests, political upheaval, and cultural change. Its lyrics painted vivid pictures: a small-town girl, a city boy, ordinary people chasing something bigger. For anyone who had ever dreamed of more, it was a call to keep moving forward, to hold on to hope, no matter how tough the road ahead seemed. For those who remember hearing it for the first time, Don't Stop Believin' felt like a light cutting through the uncertainty of the late 70s. Imagine being on the open highway, headlights stretching into the night, the windows down, and Perry's voice soaring through the speakers. It wasn't just music. It was motivation, a reminder that dreams were worth fighting for. Though its greatest resurgence would come decades later, featured in films, TV finales, and stadium sing-alongs, the song's heart belongs to 1979. Back then, it was one more unforgettable entry in the book of rock's greatest decade. Its longevity is proof that some songs don't just belong to their era, they transcend it, weaving themselves into every generation that follows. Don't Stop Believin' is more than a track. It's a mantra, a promise, a shared moment across time. And in the story of 70s rock, it stands tall as a parting gift from a decade that never stopped believing in the power of music.
Put a gun against his head, pulled my trigger, now he's dead.
Tapestry of 70s rock, Bohemian Rhapsody, remains one of its boldest, brightest. There are songs that defined the 70s, and then there are songs that redefined what rock itself could be. Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody was nothing short of revolutionary, a 6-minute suite that shattered every convention of what a hit single was supposed to sound like. Beginning with Freddie Mercury's haunting piano and tender vocals, it swelled into operatic harmonies, burst into hard rock thunder, and faded into an ethereal coda. It was equal parts art experiment and stadium anthem, something that simply shouldn't have worked, but somehow did, magnificently. When it was released in 1975, critics were baffled. Radio programmers doubted audiences would embrace such a sprawling, genre-blurring piece, but fans proved them wrong almost instantly. It shot up the charts worldwide, with Mercury's theatrical vision, Brian May's fiery guitar, and the band's intricate vocal layers turning the track into a cultural earthquake. For many listeners, it was the moment Queen transcended from rock band to legend. For those who lived through it, Bohemian Rhapsody was unforgettable. Picture yourself in '75, sitting in a car with friends. The radio dialed in as the operatic section hit. Everyone sang every word, throwing their heads back for the head-banging explosion that followed. It wasn't just music. It was a shared experience, a roller coaster of emotions that made people feel alive in a way few songs ever could. Even today, Bohemian Rhapsody hasn't lost its magic. From Wayne's World to live stadium sing-alongs, it continues to unite generations. It is proof that rock at its best is fearless, willing to take risks, to surprise, to elevate music into art. In the grand threads, a song that truly could only have come from that fearless decade. Few songs capture the haunting allure of the 1970s, quite like the Eagles' Hotel California. From its first shimmering 12-string guitar chords to its cryptic, dreamlike lyrics, the song felt like stepping into a world both glamorous and unsettling. Don Henley's voice carried the story like a weary traveler's confession, weaving together mystery, temptation, and the sense of a California dream gone dark. Layered guitars from Joe Walsh and Don Felder gave the track its signature texture, climaxing in one of the most celebrated dual guitar solos in rock history, a six-string dialogue that still gives chills decades later. When the single dropped in 1977, it became an instant classic, topping the Billboard Hot 100 and winning the Grammy for Record of the Year. But more than the accolades, what made Hotel California resonate was its ability to reflect the era's contradictions. The 1970s were a time of excess, self-discovery, and blurred lines between freedom and downfall. The song mirrored all of it: the bright lights and the shadows, the endless highways and the dead ends. For those who lived through the 70s, hearing Hotel California on the radio was almost cinematic. Imagine driving down a desert highway at dusk, the sky painted in streaks of orange and purple as those eerie lyrics floated from the speakers. It was the perfect companion for long road trips, late-night gatherings, and moments of quiet reflection. The imagery was so vivid that listeners could practically picture themselves wandering those shadowy hallways of the fabled hotel, torn between beauty and entrapment. The song also became a generational marker. For teenagers, it was the sound of curiosity and rebellion. For adults, a reminder of how success and temptation often walked hand in hand. Decades later, it's still a staple of classic rock radio. And whenever the opening riff begins, listeners of all ages are pulled right back to that moment in '76. Hotel California isn't just one of the Eagles' greatest works, it's one of the definitive songs of the 1970s, a piece of music that encapsulates both the grandeur and the unease of the decade. It lingers like a half-remembered dream, equal parts beautiful and haunting, proving that some songs don't fade with time. They grow more mysterious with every listen. Few songs embody the sound and spirit of 1970s Southern rock like Lynyrd Skynyrd's Sweet Home Alabama. From the moment Gary Rossington's chiming guitar riff kicks in, you know you're in for a ride through pure Americana. Released in 1974, the track became Skynyrd's signature anthem, fusing swaggering riffs with a chorus that practically demanded to be shouted back at full volume. Ronnie Van Zant's vocals, equal parts defiant and inviting, gave the song its unmistakable character. Rebellious yet celebratory, down-to-earth yet larger than life. The song wasn't just a hit, it was a statement. Written partly in response to Neil Young's critiques of the South, Sweet Home Alabama doubled as both a rebuttal and a rallying cry. But beyond the debate, what truly stuck with listeners was its irresistible groove. This was a track built for open highways, beer-soaked Friday nights, and summer barbecues where the music spilled from every porch. It was rock and roll grounded in place and pride, a reminder that music could carry the heartbeat of a region. For those who lived through it, the song was everywhere. Imagine cruising down a two-lane road in '74, windows down, long hair flying in the wind as that riff blasted from an 8-track. It wasn't just music. It was a lifestyle, a soundtrack for freedom, rebellion, and the joy of being young under an endless southern sky. Even those far from Alabama found themselves swept up in the energy, humming along like it was their own hometown anthem. Decades later, Sweet Home Alabama has lost none of its punch. It's a stadium sing-along, a jukebox staple, and a reminder of how '70s rock could connect people across backgrounds and geographies. In the story of the decade, it stands tall as one of the defining tracks, not just for Southern rock, but for all of classic rock's timeless legacy.
Every time that I look in the mirror.
Before Aerosmith became one of the biggest stadium rock bands of all time, they gave the world Dream On, a track that announced their arrival with both vulnerability and power. Written by a young Steven Tyler, the song combined delicate piano chords, orchestral swells, and a soulful vocal performance that built into a fiery crescendo. Joe Perry's guitar riffs wrapped around Tyler's impassioned wails, culminating in one of the most explosive endings of the decade. It wasn't just a ballad or a rocker, It was both, a fusion of intimacy and thunder that revealed the band's range from the very start. When it hit the airwaves in 1973, Dream On didn't immediately top the charts, but by the mid-70s, it had become an anthem, climbing higher and cementing Aerosmith as one of America's great rock exports. For Tyler, the song was deeply personal, reflecting the struggles of chasing dreams and the fleeting nature of time. For listeners, it became universal, a rallying cry to hold on, to keep pushing forward no matter the odds. For those who came of age in the early 70s, Dream On carried a weight that's hard to describe. Picture sitting on your bed with posters of rock gods on the wall, needle dropping onto vinyl as Tyler's voice soared into the rafters. Or imagine cruising through a humid summer night, windows down, the song blaring from a cassette deck, those final screams turning the night electric. It wasn't just a song you listened to. It was one you felt deep in your bones. Decades later, Dream On still holds its power. It remains the song that encapsulates Aerosmith's essence, gritty, soulful, and larger than life. More than that, it captures what 70s rock was all about: ambition, raw honesty, and the belief that music could be both personal and monumental.
You big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place, singing, "We will."
Sometimes, the power of rock isn't just in the music. It's in the unifying roar of voices and rhythm. In 1977, Queen released We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions back-to-back, and together they became the ultimate 1-2 punch of 70s rock. From Brian May's stomps and claps echoing like a tribal call, to Freddie Mercury's soaring declaration of victory, the pairing became immortal almost overnight. What made these songs so extraordinary wasn't just their brilliance on record. It was how they lived in the real world. We Will Rock You turned every arena into an instrument. Crowds stomped, clapped, and became part of the performance, blurring the line between band and audience. And when We Are the Champions followed, it felt like a triumphant anthem, one that captured both resilience and celebration. Together, they embodied Queen's gift for transforming rock into something bigger than entertainment. An experience, a movement, a global chorus. For anyone who grew up in the late 70s, the impact was unforgettable. Picture walking into a packed high school gym for a basketball game. The lights dimmed, and the sound of stomps and claps thundering from the bleachers. Or imagine being in an arena, the smell of beer and popcorn in the air as tens of thousands of fans stomped in unison, the floor trembling beneath your feet. It wasn't just a song. It was a moment of belonging, of pride, of release. Decades later, these tracks remain staples of sporting events, rallies, and celebrations around the world. But at their heart, they belong to the 1970s, a decade of boldness, experimentation, and an unshakable belief that rock could bring people together. In that sense, We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions are more than songs. They are the heartbeat of a generation that refused to be ignored, proving once again that Queen was not only theatrical, but eternal. If the 1970s had a single riff that could define the decade, it might just be Deep Purple's Smoke on the Water, 4 notes. That's all it took. From the first time Ritchie Blackmore's guitar snarled its way through that legendary riff, it became the battle cry of garage bands, guitar shops, and stadiums across the globe. Released in 1972, the track was more than a rock song. It was an origin story for countless musicians who picked up a guitar and learned those famous notes first. The backstory only added to its mystique. Written after a fire broke out at the Montreux Casino during a Frank Zappa concert, the lyrics painted the scene in vivid detail. The smoke on the water wasn't metaphorical. It was real, curling over Lake Geneva as the building burned. Ian Gillan's gritty vocals and Roger Glover's pulsing bass anchored the song, while John Lord's organ swirled through the mix, giving the track its unmistakable blend of heaviness and atmosphere. For fans of the time, Smoke on the Water was electric. Imagine sitting in a friend's basement in '72, a cheap amp buzzing as someone tried to hammer out the riff on a beginner guitar, or picture the thrill of hearing it live. Thousands of fists in the air, the riff shaking the rafters, the crowd unified in pure, unfiltered energy. It wasn't just a song you heard. It was one you felt in your chest. Decades later, the riff still echoes everywhere, from guitar lessons to sports arenas. But at its heart, it belongs to the '70s, a time when rock was raw, loud, and unapologetic. Smoke on the Water stands as one of the decade's towering monuments, a song that taught us sometimes the simplest ideas leave the deepest mark. If there was ever a song that captured the restless heart of the 1970s, it was Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run. Released in 1975, it wasn't just a rock song. It was an escape plan, a declaration, and a love letter to the open road. From its opening guitar riff to the wall of sound production, every second of Born to Run was designed to feel urgent, alive, and uncontainable. Springsteen's vocals carried the grit of every dreamer stuck in a small town, shouting out for freedom with a voice that cracked with equal parts desperation and hope. The song's production was massive, echoing Phil Spector's grand style. Layers of guitars, pounding drums, a saxophone solo from Clarence Clemons, and piano all collided into a sound that was cinematic and overwhelming in the best way possible. It wasn't neat or polished. It was raw, sweaty, and bursting at the seams, perfectly embodying the hunger of youth and the yearning for something more. For those who lived through it, Born to Run was the anthem of summer nights spent on highways that seemed endless. Picture leaning against the hood of a car under flickering streetlights, the radio blasting Springsteen as friends talked about getting out, moving on, and finding a bigger life. It was a song for the outsiders, the underdogs, the kids who believed there had to be something better waiting beyond the horizon. Born to Run wasn't just popular, it was transformative. It turned Springsteen from a cult East Coast hero into the boss, a symbol of working-class dreams wrapped in leather and denim. Decades later, it still raises goosebumps. Its message is universal as ever. Keep running, keep dreaming, and never let the fire go out. And there you have it. 10 of the greatest rock songs the 1970s ever gave us. Each track wasn't just music. It was a heartbeat, a memory, a piece of who we were. These songs still echo through time, proving that rock's golden era never truly fades. Which of these classics takes you back the most, and which ones are still on your playlist today? Share your stories in the comments, and let's keep this conversation alive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and relive the music with us. Until next time, keep the vinyl spinning.